Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction live from Ibrox, where Rangers have been defeated 2-1 by Motherwell at home, which I think that was since 2012, that was the last time that Rangers lost 3 games in a row at home, which just kind of shows you where we're all at the moment. I think it's safe to say that that performance was just awful. The first 45 minutes, that's as bad as a Rangers team I've seen. Barry Ferguson referred to it in his press conference here, a bit of a reaction in the second half, but it wasn't good enough yet again, Craig, at Ibrox.
Absolutely not good enough. And Barry Ferguson said they felt like he got a wee bit of a reaction in the second half. I didn't really see much of a reaction, and it's sad that you need a reaction at home to Motherwell.
Yeah,
it's I think it's hard to describe. I was already done with this season before today, but all today does is exacerbate that. All it does is amplify that feeling of just like get me to the end of May and get me to the stage where we're appointing a new permanent manager and you can start to look forward, because there's no enjoyment at the moment from watching Rangers. There's no looking forward to a game and looking forward to all of that sort of stuff around it. You're turning up. We turned up today knowing we turned up today because we're here for the podcast, and we're in a very privileged position to be able to come to Ibrox for that. But a part of me didn't want to come today at all to get to the game. I just wasn't up for it. I didn't really have any interest in watching these players and this team again. There were maybe a couple of moments in the first half where we saw, it was very few and far between, but we saw moments of play where you're like, oh, that was nicer and more and quicker and more sort of one-touch play than movement than we would have seen elsewhere. But when that's what you're clinging on to, that's just so difficult to watch. And Motherwell didn't even need to work hard for their 2 goals, which is the disappointing thing. We'll go on to Jack Butland and we'll go on to the defence and stuff like that.
Well, we certainly will, man.
Jack Butland's just making mistake after mistake after mistake at the moment, and to be honest, I'm at the stage to get rid of him in the summer.
Right.
I think the defence is just at 6s and 7s constantly. Robin Proper is just not a Rangers centre half at any stage in any way. You're playing Ridvan at right back, where he had 1 or 2 good games beforehand, but you see the struggles that come up again when he's pressed, because he's only got a left foot, so he has to go inside, but that's where the press is coming from. Jeff Day is miles off it at the moment. I think it's just, I don't know how to describe. I'm just fed up of these players in this team and ready for it to be refreshed at the end of the season. Yeah,
Hugo Bear here says the players are interested. Luke Gibson says, I'm done with these players, I'll see you next season. And Paul here says, who would have thought using the same tactics and playing the same players out to position to the manager, you would see anything different? A left back at right back, a right back at centre half, and a 10 as a winger.
On that one, Kyle, I think he did use the same tactics. First half looked more 4-4-2 for me. Second half, he did revert to the 4-3-3, but it seemed like he tried to do something a wee bit different in that first half.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just think we're all just a bit fed up, just tired of this season. It's done. There's nothing to play for. There's no competitiveness. But listen, we're a podcast. We're here to talk about Rangers. So let's, whether we like it or not, we need to dig into the bones of this stuff. And I don't know, maybe just a bit of therapy for us all. But I'm not even going to ask you about the lineup like I normally do, because it was, I don't really else.
I think the lineup was kind of what most people would have expected. It was the lineup that finished the game the other night at Rugby Park. We saw the reaction that the players gave at Rugby Park after that first 30 minutes. But they just, I don't want to say they don't care, and Barry Ferguson speaks a lot about the fact that he's drilling into them what it means to be a Rangers player, what it means to be this. But at the end of the day, they're not doing the basics right.
He's not going to come out and throw them under the bus.
If anyone was going to throw him under the bus, I actually thought he would, because he has no loyalty to any of these players. He has no attachment to any of these players. He knows he's here for 3 months, and that's that.
Aye, but equally at the same time, he can't go in and just go, "You're all shit." Like, you're not going to do something. We're trying to get something to the end.
But you watch him on the sidelines, and it does look like
he
Him and Neil McCann are
he
just...
might very well have seen that. But listen, we'll come on to it. The first action point, Rangers, as we said, didn't particularly get off to a great start in the game. It just looked, I don't know what it, the way I would describe it, it just does it's like a tiredness, a nervousness that's just throughout the whole team that just does not need to be there. At what it is, I cannot pinpoint my finger on it. But Motherwell get the first goal, 9-10 minutes to go, was scored on. Butland, it all starts with Butland, rushed it for me, hastily threw out to Dessers. It's a terrible first touch from Dessers.
Yeah, it's
the ball sort of ricochets off the Motherwell player. He latches onto it, has a shot and goals, and the Butland has another chance to redeem
the tamest shot you've ever seen as well.
This is the thing I don't understand about it. I mean, we saw the pictures in training. That was clearly something that Alan McGregor was working on. Butland with training was saving down to his left. He is. It's something to me that's clear that oppositions have seen. That's a weakness in his game. Yeah. He has to do better. You've already kind of alluded to it already here, but is there a conversation to be had around Jack Butland? I mean, to me, it wasn't that long ago. There was rumours of 12-15 million pound bids for him. He looks at, if we got £1 million in for him, I would bite your hand off for it now.
I think for me, we need a better and a different goalkeeper in the summer. I don't think there's any question about that. I'd probably expect to get more than £1 million for Jack Butland, but we're not going to get anywhere near sort of 10, 12, 15. It's just, I don't know what it's been. It's basically been since he missed that game because his child has been born. Pretty much from that moment onwards.
Remember, he did have a pretty serious injury to his leg as well. I don't know if that could be impacting him. Different players react differently to injuries and stuff like that. But I don't know what it is. Or do you think it's just he's in the collective mentality because we are just
shot?
Yeah, it's no there. We don't have a mentality, I would say, as a football team.
Yeah, it's got Ross there in the comments here. It's a concentration problem. Hugo Bear saying never been the same since Southgate watched him. That's actually maybe true. He had a bad game that day, and
then it comes back to, can these guys just no hack it under the pressure? Then is that what it is?
Yeah, I think, and this is part of a wider discussion and not really about today's game. But I think when you start to get players who are there to develop and there to grow as a player, hopefully into becoming a player of high quality, a lot of the time you'll find that they might shrink under pressure like that, and they might shirk responsibility in games where it gets a bit tough. But Jack Butland isn't one of the players I would have thought would have you'd put in that bracket, because he was an English Premier League goalkeeper. He was at a club like Manchester United, fair enough, third choice goalkeeper. But he was at a club like Manchester United. It's he's just not up to the standard that he started with, and second of all that we expect from him. And we have been we've been really lucky with the goalkeepers we've seen play for Rangers in our lifetime, basically. And Jack Butland is not up to the scratch that we expect, nor that we need. And if it's a concentration problem, like Ross mentioned, concentration is the one key thing you need as a Rangers goalkeeper, because not in a normal season, you're going to be doing nothing for 89 minutes of the 90. Yeah. And you need to be ready for that 1 minute you're needed.
I mean, I've literally just watched an interview that Mohamed Salah's given to television. I think it was for Amazon Prime, maybe, or something like that. And he said, "What is it? Why are you like this? What sets you apart from other players?" And he said, "I sat down to." It's an answer from Arsene Wenger, and he said, "The difference between good players and great players is the great players are always focused and pick the moments, because they're always focused. They know when to do it." But yeah, just. Seems like a nice guy. I feel like I keep saying this about so many of our players, by the way.
Is that the problem?
He's a nice guy, really good to have around the club, really good with interacting with the fans. But when it comes to it, when there's an actual something tangible to win or something, there's a bit of pressure on them. They just seem to collapse on it. For me, I don't know. Butland is he's just fit into that mentality of everybody else. When we're playing well, everybody's up buzzing. When we're down, it's really low, and it's really hard to get us back up off it. But listen, the next point to talk about comes in 30 minutes. It's 2-0 Motherwell. I've just written, we are cut open so easily here.
2-0 Motherwell.
2-0 Motherwell, sorry. We were just cut open so easily here. For me, that's just kind of summed the game up in microcosm. really poor at dealing with really simple situations, lacking the basics. I've had
Jeffy went wandering.
Well, this is the thing. It initially began with Tav. It was a poor ball from Tav. Proper's positioning here was terrible. And by the way, this is the thing. This should be in the big warning signals for me. See, if you're a Rangers or a Dutch centre half, you're under the age of 30. Right under PSV, Ajax, Feyenoord, and they're not picking you up. That's the warning signals that he was perhaps not good enough to be in here. But listen, collectively the defence awful today. Jeff D sort of picked up on there.
Yeah, you could have subbed all four of them at half time, and no one would have argued at all with you. But Jeff D hasn't been great for a while now. I think he really struggles with Hadji playing on that side with him. I don't think Hadji does great defensive work, but also gets in the way when Jeff D's trying to go forward. Ridvan outright doesn't work. James Tavernier is filling in at centre half, but he's not his strongest position. You never claim it to be his strongest position, and he's trying to be the solid member of the partnership that has Robin Proper beside him. It's just not going to work now. Barry Ferguson spoke about John Suter being back for Thursday against Fenerbahce, which is a positive. And then Leon Balogun obviously won the second half. So at least you've got a bit of height and a bit of physicality in there, because Robin Proper just is missing so much that is needed from a Rangers centre half, especially when you come up against a lot of physical teams that want to throw their weight around and feed off second balls.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. But Ferguson touched on it in his press conference, and you could almost see he answered the question with his body language when he was asked it, and that was, do you think that Rangers aren't physical enough? I mean, he was practically nodding his head saying, no, we're definitely not physical enough, but I've got the players. Do you think that maybe having Balogun back, having Suter back, having Sterling back, do you think that's going to make a bit of a difference to teams playing against teams like this? Because, in the words of the manager, we were totally overrun in that first half.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, if you look at the team today, the goalkeepers throwing in goals or making errors that lead into goals. The defence is weak, and again, similar to the goalkeeper making errors that lead into goals. The midfield, albeit I thought Raskin and Diomande were our two best players today, and I was impressed by Diomande for the long spells of the game that he played. The midfield is pretty much non-existent at times, and then the front three, the final third decision making is just awful.
Yeah.
Hamza Igaman is miles off form, which can happen to a young player, especially one if they come in and they go flying for a bit and they start to.
Do you think we played him too much?
I don't know if we play him too much. I don't think we play him in his strongest position. I don't think he gets the service that he needs. I don't understand why we don't play him wide left at the moment. It's not his strongest position, but at least he has the pace. We've seen him do well out there beforehand. Instead, we're sticking Hadji out there. But actually, Igaman should be where Dessers is, and that's a call the manager's got to make. But we're not playing Igaman his best place, and Dessers sometimes good, sometimes bad. Almost quoting Peter Silva now, not quite.
Yeah, I know. It was very, very close there, wasn't it? Look, some of the comments coming in here. Luke Gibson here says, two strong centre-backs, desperately needed in the summer, no ball-playing centre-backs, get Katic back or something. The only problem with that is Katic's probably going to cost a few million quid off Plymouth now, isn't he? I think he's
only on loan there, I think.
Oh, is it on loan? All right, fair enough. Ross says, Jeffy should have been out the team weeks ago. Ridvan being injured doesn't help. With many of the young players similar to Eagleman, he's having a different form. These are the moments they should come out. And the Bluebells are blue says the next manager needs to not make the same mistakes. That starts with focusing on the shambolic defence. Attackers win games and defences win league. I totally agree with what Bluebells are blue saying there. Listen, it was really interesting how speaking or hearing the Motherwell manager speak. I thought he was brilliant when he spoke.
Yeah, I was really impressed by him. He seemed like a really nice guy. He stopped calling people nice guys, but you turned around and said it was a typical German football manager interview.
It's so factual, just right down the middle. To me, Motherwell were everything Rangers were not today. Determined, had a plan. How
interestingly, because I thought it was really interesting the way he broke down what their plan was before they came here. It was effectively press Rangers high, but when Rangers at moments you sit back a little bit and let Rangers come on to you, and then you press them, and that's what they wanted to do. They came in knowing that they could, not just hoping they could get something or hoping they could win, but knowing they could. Yeah, wait till Ross is next on the podcast, and then we can pull him up on some stuff.
Ross is a nice guy as well.
He's a really nice guy.
But yeah, Rangers got, as I said, there was a bit of a reaction to in 54 minutes. The subs, Eagleman came off, Hadji came off, Proper came off, Lawrence, Bayrami, Balogun all came on. I'll say I think we did look a bit more solid at the back with Balogun coming on.
Yeah,
just in terms of,
you'd expect that though.
Yeah, but again, do you not even just think it instills a wee bit of confidence in everybody around about them? I felt Dio and Raskin were forward a wee bit more.
But what did you make of it? I guess we've not really touched on Enciala not being in the squad at all today. What did you make of that?
I'm not surprised in the slightest. Look, I think the way that the players are dealing with it, you saw immediately after the Kilmarnock game, Tav going right up to him, putting his arm around him, clearly speaking to him. You've heard them reference it in the press conferences before the game as well, talking about how they're dealing with it. He's a young player. I do think he has a bit of a future in the game, but he's one of these guys that he's just been thrown in far too quickly. Like everything, it's just out of necessity. So
I do think for Enciala it's maybe too much too soon, but we did say on many podcasts that the season's pretty much over anyway, so these are the times where you test these guys and you try and figure out what they can do and what they can't do and where they need to improve, and you're chucking them in at tough places like Tynecastle, like Rugby Park, and you're seeing how they handle it, and Enciala's passed some of those tests and he's failed some of those tests, but he's a young guy that only played his first professional football game 2 months ago, maybe max. So you've got to give him a wee bit of leeway. Yeah, you've got to give him a wee bit of leeway on that one. Same as we've got to do with Igaman as well. But Rangers fans aren't known for their patience.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Look, so our last question here before we wrap it up, and it was just something that Barry Ferguson said in the press conference, and it stuck out to me so much today because he was asked so many times, is there players in that dressing room that understand what it takes to be Rangers? He said it's not just about being a good player when you're at Rangers. He said you need other attributes, and I couldn't believe what I was watching in that first half at times. How do we get that to that? I mean, is that just going right back to our recruitment strategy that we've now got to look at? Because how do you do that? How do you look at the mentality of players like that as a case of recruiting a bit closer to home to people that do understand the Scottish game, looking inwards towards the league? But I mean, there's, apart from arguably Lennon Miller, who I don't think was great today, but I can't think of anybody that I would consider signing for Rangers within the league. How do you do that? Is it just a case of these guys going, oh, I've won, look at my medals, look at my pictures on the wall?
I don't know how much that would, like, if I was a player and someone like Barry Ferguson walked in and said, here's what you need to be a Rangers player, would that change how I am as a player? Hope so. I would need to if I was going to be playing for Rangers, but would that change how I am as a player if I've become a professional footballer and I've had the mentality to get to the level I'm at? I'm not entirely sure. It seems like quite an old school mentality approach. In terms of how do we get that going forward, we need to buy, and that's where the balance of having experience in the squad versus having young players in the squad, because you're going to need experienced players to have won and have that winning mentality, and that's what we're missing just now. I think you've not got a Steve Davis, you've not got an Alan McGregor, you've not got players of that calibre who have been there and done it and have lived with that winning mentality over and over again, and they're pulling others up to their standards. Instead, you've got players that are maybe not at that level. Senior players in that team just now: Robin Proper, Jack Butland, James Tavernier, trying to think who else, Cyril Dessers. Yeah, those are the senior players in that squad. And really, how many trophies have they won over the course of their career? How many teams have they played for that have went on or where that winning mentality is required week in, week out? None. Yeah, really. And James Tavernier's tried to reach that point many times with Rangers, but outside of the 55 winning season, I don't think Rangers have achieved that at all. They've always hit a point in the season where they just go through a bad patch, and that winning mentality, we need to have people in the dressing room that have that, but we also need to have players who want to get to that. It's finding that fine balance, and I'm not entirely sure how you get it, but we need to do it. We need to do it fast.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to end the podcast on this comment for Ross. He says, for me, I think we've got good players. The problem I see is the players haven't been coached or developed for a year. They look lost. They've no answers to being put under pressure. And that's it. We just can't cope with being put under pressure. And Cure's going over to Fenerbahce and winning like 2 or 3-0 that I've said that. But yeah, listen, thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. Thanks very much for all the comments interacting as always. We will be back tomorrow night. I'm sure that's a 8:30 kickoff. Half seven kickoff, so it is. Everybody there. So take care, and we'll see you all then.